everyone. My name is Aubrey Courtney, and this is my informational interview. The person I decided to interview was a woman from my hometown named Parika Andreasen, and who is pictured here on the right with her husband. So Parika grew up in the hotel business because both of her parents were actually owner and operators of many hotels across the United States. And they finally ended up in the town which I'm from, which is Cumberland. And so Parika grew up there, went to high school there, and attended the University of Maryland and got her degree in management. And that's also where she met her husband. And now they are both owner and operators of the Hampton Inns and the Comfort Inns located in my town, but also in another town called Frostburg, which is maybe 15 minutes away. So the two topics that I centered my questions around were motivation of employees and the emotions of employees in the workplace. So obviously, the main goal for all hotels anywhere is making your guests happy. So how do you do that? So I asked her, how would you say that you motivate your employees? And surprisingly, she said, the goal setting theory, which is what we have been learning in class. So, she goes in every day, starts every day and has a meeting with all of her employees. And they all sit there and they set up the goals that they want to achieve throughout the day to, help strive for, guest satisfaction. So Parika goes online, of course, with any restaurant, any business out there, there are always going to be reviews online. Negative, positive, how many stars, what's the ratings, how is the, how's the stay, how is the room, all those good things. So during her, meetings during start of each day, she goes over both negative and positive reviews. And the biggest thing is turning your negative reviews into positive motivators. So you can't just get stuck on the negatives and just, try to fix it really quick. We're going to let that be a motivator. You always want to learn and you always want to be better in the future because, you may be doing well right now, but there's always ways to be better and to grow for the future. So another thing about motivation is obviously rewards. So there are intrinsic rewards and extrinsic rewards. And another question of mine was, which would you prefer, like which ones do you think employees like the most? And she said, this stuck out to me, so that's why I put it in here. She said extrinsic rewards seem flat. If someone's doing well, they have good performance, extrinsic rewards, just handing somebody a check saying good job, see you tomorrow morning, does seem flat and that doesn't there's no recognition behind it. There's no emotion behind that. An intrinsic reward is congratulating an employee, having recognition, having a ceremony for them, that is what really means the most to employees instead of, just a piece of paper saying good job, see you tomorrow. Like there's no emotions behind that, there's no support, there's no nothing. So intrinsic rewards definitely outlast extrinsic rewards and intrinsic rewards, help motivate employees not only in the present but also in the future. And also with intrinsic rewards, you also have to remember to support your employees to reach their goals. Setting a goal each morning and setting a goal each day, okay, and then letting the employees go off and do it. Sometimes they need support behind that, check up on them, see how they're doing. If they're struggling, of course, offer them some help. But if they're doing great, tell them to keep up the good work and that they're doing great and let them continue. And also with employees and their motivation, you also want to be respectful and keep in mind to listen to your employees, because an employee could have a concern of their own. They could have a new idea stirring in their head. It's always good to let your employees know that their voice matters and that their opinions matter as well, because, listening to your employees and letting their ideas flow through the organization also motivates them, that I'm not just an employee, but I can bring ideas to the table and also have a leadership role within the organization. And another key thing with motivation is that different people are motivated in different ways. So yes, she uses the goal setting theory, but she also mentioned that she uses management by objectives because, some employees may be motivated by the goal setting theory and others may not. Some may succeed with the goal setting theory, some may not. So you always, but once again, bringing up how you must have a relationship with your employees, not just like on a management and employee level, but also a personal level to get to know them, see how they're motivated, and see what works best with them and not just the majority. So now we're going to move on to employees and emotions in the workplace. So of course, employee and guest relationships are key. You want your employees to engage with the guests, build that relationship, build a bond, and create a family aspect. Because when employees have a good relationship with the guests, you never know, guests may be traveling for a holiday, just visiting on vacation. They obviously, you want to bring them back. You want to keep the guests, you want to keep your brand name strong, and you want to keep, the same people coming back because they had an enjoyable stay. And, the employees getting to know the guests, it builds that relationship of a family, and that's what is going to continue to have the same, guests and consumers come back. Also, when it comes to employees and when it comes to employees and their emotions in the workplace, people don't like to hear negativity. You always want to keep a positive attitude, smile on your face, because you can tell when someone's having a bad day and when they're upset, and just the tone of their voice and what they're saying. Nobody likes to hear that, and that's just going to put a bad reflection on the organization as a whole. And when issues are presented, if a guest is having a bad stay, something went wrong, the room wasn't as tidy as they wanted it to be, guests may, the issue will be presented, and sometimes they will yell and argue with the employee, but they also have to remember to act professionally because that's what you have to do. Also, yelling at a guest is never acceptable. The customer and guest is always right. So employees need to follow that, handle the situation, make the guest happy, and we'll move on from the situation. Now with employees and autonomy, of course, all employees should be trained from the ground up. Having common courtesy for the guests. Making the guests stay as best as they can as possible. And the biggest thing that Parika goes by, and like this is a rule to basically live by, not only within organizations but as just life in general. Treat others the way you want to be treated. So like I mentioned in the previous slide, if a guest comes to an employee with a situation or a concern or something went wrong, and they are going to be angry about that because, guests have an expectation of when they walk into an organization, a hotel, a restaurant. There's always going to be that expectation of how the guest is going to view the organization as a whole. So if something goes wrong, they're going to present it to the employee. And the employee needs to handle that in the way that they would want to be treated in that situation. So basically putting the employee in the guest's shoes, what if this was my stay, or what if this was a family member stay or a friend stay? You want the best for yourself and your family, so you want to treat that other person as if it was one of your family members or if it was yourself, because that is how you would best handle the situation. But also remember to act professional, put a smile on your face, and handle it to the best of your ability. And employees do have the freedom to, give discounts, give a low rating, give a guest a night, like a room for like a night stay for free. If something goes wrong, they do have the ability to, you know, excuse me, give discounts and a room free for a night if, this particular situation came to that. And then the key takeaways from this interview, honestly, is to get to know your employees and know how to motivate them. Because, like I said before, all employees are motivated differently. Everybody is different, and different types of motivations will obviously motivate different people, because that's why there is so many different motivation theories. Always allow your employees to have a voice and let them feel like they have a leadership role within the organization. Not only are they, a housekeeper or a front desk clerk, they are a leader within the organization. They have opinions, they are the ones who deal with the guests day in and day out. Those are who the guests, have, the biggest relationship with them, because those are the one that they communicate with the most. So, they can obviously voice opinions the best and give the best ideas to bring to the table. And you always want to leave room for improvement, because, whether you are doing great, the reviews are up, customer satisfaction is up, that doesn't mean you can just stay in the position you are and hope to ride it out for the long run. You always want to keep improving, keep bettering yourself for the future. And during that process, you always need to remember to stay positive, even in tough situations, because no matter what organization or what business you're in or what major you are, the customer is always, always right. So you always need to remember to stay calm, put yourself in those shoes, and how would you want someone else to handle that situation for you? Because that's the best way you can relate to the consumer. And if the employees have the option to have autonomy and freedom to make those decisions, and if the employee does, make that best decision for the situation and the employee at hand.